Hey, welcome to today's podcast. I want to share some life experience and some observations with you. And if you are a freelance event professional, I want to give you some tips on how to be regarded as better than good. Man, if you're great, you're in demand. But the keys to being great really aren't that hard to achieve if you'll just pay attention to the details. All right, let's get started on this. Um, there's a podcast I did probably about a year ago about who's better than you. And the premise of the podcast is it's not about expertise. And that's where most people mistake their value in any given situation in the live event world. It's not about your expertise. It's really about your self-awareness because there are tasks and roles and responsibilities that go far beyond technical expertise. And let's face it, we know a lot of technical experts out there who are just jerks to work with. And to be a really good or great freelance event professional means that you have to be a pleasure to work with. Are you a pleasure to work with? Think about it. Be honest with yourself. Now, this goes both ways, right? If you want to hire great freelancers, you also need to be a pleasure to work with. And trust me, some of you are not. Many of you who contact me said, Tom, I can't find good freelancers. We keep trying. We do all these things for them. Tell me your whole sob story. But the fact of the matter is, you're really not that great to work for. And so you're not attracting great freelancers. And some of you are barely attracting good freelancers. So listen to this podcast, learn what I'm telling people who are probably good freelancers how to be a great freelancer, and then see how does that apply to your business when you're trying to hire a great freelancer. Are you even someplace a great freelancer wants to work? There we go. There's the fun. So this is a love letter to all my fellow freelancers out there. Strap in. There's some unconventional thoughts, some good advice, and some uncommon sense waiting for you here. Welcome to your weekly dose of uncommon sense, helpful insights, and tough love. The Intentional Success Podcast comes to you through the generous support of Merch Crew. For 25 years, Merch Crew has protected live event companies with a powerful and reliable solution for booking trusted AV freelancers that you select and at your rates. Save time, cut costs, and reduce risk. Start today at merchcrew.com. All right, I have talked about the level of shows over the years, and I did a podcast and a blog post last year, and I talked about the 10 levels of shows. Called it the 10 levels of AV excellence. And I'm going to briefly recap that, and I'm going to focus on the middle today because I'm talking to you as a freelancer and a fellow freelancer. I grew up doing shows. I was a freelance AV tech. I started doing AV work probably around 1980 or so. Didn't realize I was a freelance AV tech until about 1983, and continued to do that work into the beginning of the 90s. And then I hired hundreds and hundreds of freelancers over the next 10, 15 years or so. So I know an awful lot about this space. And while the technology has changed, the qualifications really have not. And what is more interesting to me is that the level of events that we do are exactly the same. They may look different. They may be executed a little differently. The technology behind them is certainly advanced over, the sock puppets and slide projectors from my day. But the fact is, the levels of expectation have not really altered that much. So, a couple of quick pieces of advice for you at a freelancer at any level, and then I'm going to talk about these different levels of shows. If you aspire to be a good freelancer, if you're not getting the work that you need to have, just take these few bits of advice. You can listen to the rest of it, but this is going to make a huge difference. Number one, this is all about self-awareness. You need to know what you're actually qualified to do. And whatever you think you're qualified to do, chances are you're wrong. You're not that good. You don't have that much experience. You aspire to do something, but you need to know the difference between what you're already good at and what you aspire to do. Okay. So don't punch above your weight. If you get invited to what sounds like your dream gig to be an A1 for a national corporate event for a big insurance company that's got live entertainment coming in from a national act, and this would be like your dream gig whatsoever, and you've never done this before, stop. Turn this work down. Ask if you can be a fly on the wall. Tell them you'll come in and work for free. Okay. But please do not hire me to do this gig. I'm not good enough yet. Okay. Don't punch above your weight. It's the worst thing you can do in your AV career. Now, sometimes we will get asked to go a little bit above our weight, but always do that with full disclosure. There was a freelance technician, a video guy. I really needed him to be a projectionist, but the way we had the show set up and structured, and I had 70 or 80 freelancers out on this gig across multiple ballrooms, is that he was ultimately going to be running the room by himself. He was ultimately in charge of getting it set up, but we had other resources that could come in to help anytime he got stuck with things. We had stage-hands, but he was the only technical expert. And we had a switcher on there that, he explained, goes, I don't run switchers. I'm not a TD, a video TD. I said, can you hook it up and make a picture come out of it? He goes, yeah, I can do that. I said, great. That's all you're really going to need to do. Okay. This is an A or B show. It's going to be moving one bar. If you have any trouble getting it set up, I got plenty of people come to help you. And his disclosure about his limitations, and of course, my disclosure about the resources that were available, means it turned out to be a great fit. And he did an excellent job on it, just as we knew he would. But we had to clear up those things because he was not going to punch above his weight. He was not going to let himself be set up to fail. But fortunately, he was working with somebody who thought about things the same way on the other side. I don't want to put a freelancer in a position where they might fail. Okay. So not only did I know we might be stretching his experience a little bit, we weren't stretching his aptitude and we weren't stretching his expertise, right? The main thing we needed him for was that this was a calm person in a firefight, in a chaotic business, good customer facing skills, and we were going to have pretty pictures, and that's what mattered the most. So don't punch above your weight. Always disclose what your limitations are. That's how you get the opportunities to maybe do something a little cooler, a little neater, something that might elevate your resume, your CV a little bit. The other thing I'm going to tell you is that dress codes always matter. Always ask what dress codes are. They make a difference. I come from a theater background. I grew up doing theater, stage. We've got millennia of traditions in theater about what is appropriate. AV is relatively new. However, professional technology events have been going on for 150 years. AV is really a late 60s, 1970s phenomenon that really didn't come into its own until the 80s and the 90s. We're very new. So our standards in AV, if you grew up in AV, all you have to reference are AV, which is, probably hotel AV, simple shows, what I call those lower level, what I lovingly call meatball AV events, which doesn't put you in the same category as people doing high-end entertainment events, which also uses AV technology, but entertainment is a different industry. So theater is an industry, entertainment is an industry, audio-visual events is an industry. And the Venn diagram of overlapping technology is actually quite large, but the mindset and expertise and decorum do differ. So what you can get away with working on a rock and roll tour or some sort of musical act tour on a day-to-day basis is really different than what you would be allowed to do in theater or allowed to do in the audiovisual world. So ask about dress codes. If the dress code is not something that you do, you may not be on the right gig. If you're expected to show up in slacks and a shirt with a collar for a load-in day, and you've never done that before, you may be making a positive career choice, or you may be walking in to a potential failure because you might not be a good fit. So pay attention to dress codes and respect dress codes. I come from an era where we wore coats and ties in the 80s to every event. I mean, if we were setting up screens, we're wearing a coat and tie. I went to a show one time for a 4 hour minimum. Turned out I was doing a teardown. I was wearing a coat and tie. I was the only technician on the teardown wearing a coat and tie, and I was the only technician on that crew that I ever saw again. That should tell you something. Dress codes matter. People skills matter even more. If you're a curmudgeon, if you are a gruff, if you're a rough around the edges, just be self-aware and let people know that. I worked with a guy once who, you know, back before tattoos were as popular and pervasive as they are now, but he had what we now call sleeve tattoos on his arms. In the corporate world in the 90s, that was completely unacceptable. The fact is, I never knew he had tattoos on his arms because he always wore long sleeves. There's another guy we worked with or wanted to work with who had shaved his head and had tattoos on his head. Guess what? There was no way to cover them up. They were on his face. I mean, it's like there was, as nice as this guy was and as corporate, as experienced as he was, there was nothing I could do on a corporate gig with him. Even set up and tear down work was not appropriate. Now, times have changed. Decorum is altered a little bit, but you still need to be self-aware. I always tell people, if you're dressing or wearing your hair or displaying body art in a way to draw attention to yourself, you're already creating a problem. So find a way to be who you are without making it other people's concern. So I don't know if that's always possible. I do see a lot of folks out there and going, man, I don't care how good you are. I can't put you in the room with my clients, right? And that's okay. People skills matter. It's not just your appearance, it's also how you communicate. So, can you have a conversation? Can you listen? Can you say yes? Okay. If your answer to everything is no, because I'm the expert and I know how to do this, that is not people skills. That's just kind of being a jerk, right? We have to be able to listen to people. I always say, technicians on the shows that I crewed for the 15 years, 20 years that I did that are always customer facing. There is no room on a show crew for somebody that needs a person between them and the customer. If the customer walks up, whether it's the producer, it's the CEO of the company who's about to speak, if they want to talk to a technician and ask a question or get support, every technician on that show, anybody wearing a headset, is available to help that person. You have to have people skills. You have to have good communication skills. And you can't be scary to talk to or confusing to talk to, right? So people skills matter. And all technicians need to be ready to wear a lot of hats, okay? So I'm talking about the middle level technicians now. So if you're not willing to wear a lot of hats, then you're probably not going to be a good fit. Either you're already an elite professional, and I will touch on that for just a second, or you're in the meatball AV world, which means you don't know how to do enough things. But if you're in that middle tier of the professional AV technician, whatever it is, you may have an expertise or a specialty, whatever you're in, if you're not willing to wear a lot of hats and help in another area, there's not enough work for you. Okay. We don't need that. Okay. The other thing is I like to say is there's no white glove roles where I'm talking about. So let's talk about the three tiers. If you're, I say meatball AV, and I'm talking about what I call level 1, 2, or 3 shows. It's the microphone on a stand as a level 1 show. If it's not working right, somebody wanders over and does something about it, as opposed to a level 2 show where there's somebody who's supposed to be doing something about it, and a level 3 show where there are multiple people, maybe somebody working in lighting, somebody working in audio, maybe somebody working in video, who are generally supervising each other. And that's level 1, 2, and 3, right? We're not doing art. We're not doing fancy. There's no song and dance on stage. This is very straightforward. Use the technology for technology's sake to communicate the message. And there's a lot of nice work in there. But again, it's very simple stuff. If you have people skills, the technology you could learn probably on your first gig. No offense. It's not that hard, right? Now, level 4 through 6 is what I call the pro AV technician. I'll come back to that. Level 7 through 9 are the professionals. I don't need to tell professionals how to do their job. You guys are already experts. You have value added. You provide services. You do pre-con meetings. You help with design. You give advice freely. You do technical specifications. You will talk to suppliers that you're going to have to work with on the show site. You do everything you can to make it work. And you know that if you're on a professional level show, if you're an expert, there's no backup for you. There's nobody who's going to cover your ass. You're the expert in the thing that you've been hired for. So you've got to know it. And you've got to also have all the other skills that are important, because it doesn't mean that you're not going to step in and help somebody else. It doesn't mean that nobody that you won't have to back somebody up. The fact is, nobody planned for you to be backed up, right? Now, let's get back to the middle tier, which is where 80% of our work is. Okay, 80% of our work is that pro AV technician. Now, pro AV level 4, shows might have a show caller or somebody who's in charge. Maybe it's a production manager, um, somebody like that. And we need to be aware of that, because we're going to report to somebody on the show site. So technical direction is going to be required. Somebody looked at the overall job to make sure it was going to work. You're not the only resource that decides what good is. Somebody thought this out. A level 4 show, a level 5 show, there's a genuine need for coordination. There is stage business. There are transitions that require professional show calling, maybe not expert show calling, but at least professional show calling. And then level 6 is when it becomes mission critical, where the show caller has to be an expert in all aspects of the show. They actually have to be better at a higher level than all of the crew, because they're the ones that are pulling it all together. So a general AV technician, a pro AV person might be a specialist. And it's okay to say, hey, I work in audio. I'm primarily an A1, but I'm also a good system engineer if you need me. You need to understand who you are and what you do. You might say, hey, I'm a great system engineer. Okay. I can A1 a small show, but that's not my happy place. That's not where my highest and best use. My highest and best use is backing up a high level A1 on a major event. And here are all the things that I can take care of. The same words translate across all departments and all disciplines. So knowing where you fit in is very, very important. This is the level of work where you might be asked to travel. So now, dress codes, decorum, customer facing. If we flew you across the country and you can't even have an appropriate conversation with the presenter who's about to go on stage, what was the point of sending you there, right? So you have to be better than the alternative, which is hiring somebody we might not have worked with before. So that's when you get to travel. You have to be better. And very often our traveling gigs, your traveling gigs, are because the company that's hiring you doesn't have a deep bench and they don't know anyone better than you, and they settle for you. And that's okay. Trust me, I did that. Okay. I traveled all over the country because I worked with people who were happy enough with the fact that I had people skills. I knew when to call for help. I could, talk to the customer. I could run a queue. I was not a technical wizard. But the fact is, it was safer to send me than risk hiring a technical wizard who might not have the people skills that I had. So don't be offended when I say you might not be worth traveling and you got traveled anyway. Just be self-aware. There's a recurring theme here. Know why you're there. You're there because the people who hired you don't have deep enough resources. So you better give it your best. And that's what I'm trying to tell you about today. What are the things you have to do? So when you're in this mid-level, this level 4 to 6 show technician world, there's no more fixed hours. There's no asking what your schedule. This is a 24-hour block. You will be there until the job done. You will do whatever it takes. You may get to the point where you've earned the right to complain or be hungry, need to be fed, need to go sit in a dark room for 30 minutes to have a break. But the fact of the matter is, we have to do it. You are not at this level the final word on good versus excellent. You're always going to be judged, and you have to be prepared for that. There's typically going to be a better level technician, a more discerning client, a TD from your employer who is going to set the standard, and you're going to have to rise up to it. You aren't hired because you're the final word in expertise in your given role. You've been hired because you meet enough of the criteria that we trust you to do a good job, be kind to the clients, and take some direction. Now, even when we get up into the expert levels, okay, they also have to take direction. They take tremendous amounts of criticism from people who are extremely unqualified to criticize them. But the fact is, they're pros. They know how to take it. They know how to deal with it. They know how to process that information and respond in such a way that whoever is giving them heck feels like they were listened to and feels like they were heard. And that's extremely important. So as the pro AV guy, you're going to wear a lot of hats. You may be asked to run the lighting. So well, I'm not a lighting person. It's two faders. We got up and down. We have buttons you can hit. It's very simple. Suck it up, learn how to do it. None of us at this level have the luxury of being so snobbish about our chosen profession to not help make the job work. Now, there's a big difference between a company that should have hired an LD to run the console. There's also jobs where sometimes the lights go up and the lights go down. Understand those things. Again, be self-aware. What are you being asked to do? Which brings me to what I consider probably my final piece of advice about how to spot a great freelancer and how to be a great freelancer is work on your relationship with money. Once you're in that mid-level freelancer realm, you need to pick a rate. Okay. Even professionals have a rate. They have a rate whether they're working on the Academy of the Awards or they're doing a pharmaceutical show in the Marriott Ballroom. Chances are it's the same rate. The shows might be exactly as complex. But if you're that mid-level person, the reason you want to pick a rate is because you want to sell 100% of your brain and expertise 100% of the time. Not, oh, well, when I'm an A1, I get this. Oh, if I'm a camera operator, I charge this. Oh, if I'm doing lighting, I charge this. Stop it. Okay. I always told my freelancers, when I hire you, I'm hiring 100% of your brain. I want you to be able to do everything that you know how to do to make this job better. It doesn't mean I want you to take over. It doesn't want to mean that I want you to step on other people's toes. I just want, if you know how to do something and it needs to be done, I expect you to step in and do it. And if nobody else on your team is good enough to step in, then I will recognize that you are better than the rest of the team if that will make you happy. Okay. Again, the people who need that kind of feedback are not the people who are going to get hired again. The people who do what is done, everybody hears about it. If you step in and do what needs to be done, if you help, if you know, this is the technician I was. I wasn't a great technician. I was actually doing audio on a gig, some time back in the late 80s. And the one of my good buddies was doing the video, and a new friend, a person who now I've known for 40 plus years, was coming in and doing the lighting and the scenic. And I got done getting the audio set up. I'm an old theater person. I did scenery. I used to build scenery. All of us, I just went over and started helping him. And he was laying carpet. You know what? I used to help my brother lay carpet in apartments. I knew how to move carpet around. So I got up there and dressed out his carpet, did stuff for him. And, the fact of the matter is, I wasn't going to charge more or less for that. I was just using what I knew to get the job done, which made me part of the team. And that's how I developed a bunch of lifelong friends who we could all probably go in and do shows again today, 40 years later, and work together because we know that every single person on that crew will do whatever it takes to make that show successful. And that's who I'm trying to hire, and that's who I want you to be. So be mindful of where you are and where you fit in the hierarchy of events. Embrace the space that you're in. Do not resent the jobs you're not getting. It's not worthy of you. Keep being good at what you're doing, and you may retire an extremely successful freelancer making $250,000 a year doing level 5 shows extremely reliably, working 150, 170 days a year, as much as you want, and always doing excellent work. And I don't know what could be better than that in terms of a career trajectory. So there you go. Some advice from one old freelancer to a bunch of freelancers that are out there. And I hope all you people that hire freelancers are paying close attention to what I'm describing. Know the difference between good and great, and it's not about expertise, it's about aptitude. Thanks for listening. If this episode of the Intentional Success Podcast has made an impact on your day, then please leave a review and don't forget to like and subscribe. This podcast has been brought to you by the helpful folks at Merch Crew.